This is Bitcoin on Point, where I break down. Oh my God, man. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I break down the market in real time and emotion free. In today's video, we are going to study Bitcoin's monthly logarithmic growth fractal and why it could be representing a massive opportunity zone. Also studying into the Bitcoin daily, which is a very decisive moment, and how the lower time frames are forming a potentially neutral structure that might give the game away for the short term. I will also analyze our current trade setups and a potential new trade setup that I'm analyzing as well. This is not one to miss. Do stay tuned. Now, before we actually dive into the charts, let's zoom out to our macro backdrop, because Coinbase CEO has just stated the US government will own over $1 trillion in Bitcoin reserves. It's happening. This isn't a retail narrative. What this is sovereign level accumulation. Now, at the same time, the US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just said, we are going big on digital assets. When it comes to clarity and trying to pass regulation, this is policy direction. When governments start openly signaling about adoption, the markets don't ignore it. And guess what? It doesn't stop there either. Elon Musk's $1.25 trillion AI giant XAI is now hiring Bitcoin and crypto experts. Bitcoin is going mainstream. So let it all sink in. AI, governments, digital assets. This is not fringe anymore. This is mainstream infrastructure being built in real time. So whilst price is consolidating back down at key levels of major support, this is where major shifts begin, when the chart doesn't look perfect, but when structure and the macro all start to quietly align together. Now, with that in mind, let's dive into the Bitcoin monthly chart. Let's go on to our technicals now. And this is a very specific fractal, right? It's a logarithmic growth fractal. And what it basically represents is periods where we should really sell Bitcoin and areas that offer areas of potential opportunity, or DCA. Now, in reference to this actual fractal, let's look at areas of opportunity, for example. And in the past, back in 2012, going towards 2013, we was back down at the lower regression of this fractal growth. And this was an area of opportunity before a major expansion into the blow-off side, which was a sell signal for Bitcoin, right? So whenever you're at the top of this regression fractal, it indicates potential overbought territory. And when you're back down at the lows in this white sort of area, this offers a perfect opportunity to gain some sort of entry before an explosion, or it's a perfect area to actually DCA Bitcoin. And again, it's historically represented near enough every single time Bitcoin has come back down from the sell side of this fractal back into the DCA zone. This is where opportunity has presented itself, right? And at this moment in time, Bitcoin is inside the white DCA zone, right? On the fractal. So simply put, in fact, I think this is probably, in regards to this actual fractal, probably the most oversold that it's actually been in regards to where DCA opportunities actually exist. So with that being said, is fear being priced in? And right now, Bitcoin's just offering perfect opportunity on the macro. Now, with that being said, we're going to move on to the daily time frame. And Bitcoin did have this structure before, right, where it did have some sort of rising wedge or rising channel. It ran into a level of resistance multiple times, failed to break out, lost the support of that rising wedge or channel, confirmed it as resistance, and then ran back down into our bullish weekly order block, which sits between 64 to 60K. Now, why is this, where Bitcoin now is, a very deciding moment? Well, because if we are to see a market structure shift and actually confirm a local low, Bitcoin has to monitor and maintain the wick low from February the 6th, right? Which sits down at around 60K. So we have to continue respecting the order block. And we've seen multiple attempts thus far of actually trying to break through 72K. But every time Bitcoin is running up to it at the moment, it is seeing rejection. So the only time that Bitcoin actually can start confirming any sort of local low on the daily time frame is by actually breaking above $72,000, right? But the real actual structure shift, it would be a good sign, because if Bitcoin can continue building sort of higher lows here, this would be great. And we'll zoom into that in a second because there is a structure I'm looking at. But if we do get a break above 72K and actually hold it, 80K is primarily the area that we need to see Bitcoin reclaim in order to see a shift of structure, right? In order to see a market structure shift, right? To turning this bearish trend back into a bullish reaction. So there is good signs at the moment. We are respecting the weekly bullish order block. We do have the local low at 60K. We have 72 that is imminent resistance to break and is a very decisive moment because if we don't, it does then lean into the opportunity as well. If you hit your head on resistance so many times, there is the potential for Bitcoin to reject and come back into this weekly order block, right? So 72K is imminent to break. 80K is also of very much importance because that's where we could see a potential market structure shift and reverse from bearish into a bullish reaction. Now, before we go into Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, a quick update on our trading challenge. We are taking account from $10,000 to $100,000, fully public, fully transparent. We have 4 total trades and are sitting at $678 in profit. Every single trade, the execution it's all shared in my live free Telegram. The links for everything are in the description, so make sure you check it out. This is definitely something you should get involved in. Now let's dive into Bitcoin on the 4-hour, and this is a structure that's been unfolding over the last couple of days, and as data has been sort of coming in for us and we're seeing local resistance points, it's pretty evident now that Bitcoin, after tapping into the weekly order block, which we discussed on the daily, is forming some sort of symmetrical triangle. We're caught between resistance and support. Now, if you analyze this in some sort of neutral way, this is a formation that's a neutral pattern, right? It has equal possibilities of breaking to the up or to the downside, and what we actually want to look for is either a break of resistance, a hold of support, and then that's a sign that we're going to get a break to the upside. If Bitcoin comes down and loses the trend line of support and hits its head on it, that's when we could actually get the dip back into support, because we was looking over the last couple of days, we was looking for this dip here, right, from Thursday, sort of Friday, to come back into the weekly order block, but it didn't actually do it. It built a higher low. And then from that higher low, that's when we ran up into this resistance. So we do have this descending resistance on our head. We have this ascending level of support. And one way that we could actually look for the direction is either through the break of resistance or for the loss of support. If Bitcoin does come down and lose support, we're simply looking for another test back into the weekly order block, which sits between 64 to 60K. However, if Bitcoin does break out to the upside, then this is where we could resort back to breaking 72K and pushing towards 80K to look for that market structure shift on the daily time frame. So it's all about what comes next, right? On the lower time frames, they influence as we zoom out, right? So this is why we cover it from the monthly all the way into the 4-hour, because the little moves matter just as much. Now, with that being said, let's again diving into our profits precision dashboard. This is where everything, guys, is tracked for my trades, and it's really quite unique. It allows you to have everything you need to monitor on one platform, on one dashboard. And we have a 100% win rate. We have 4 trades that we've taken. The account is up 6 to 7% roughly, which is near $700. And all the executions are tracked on this platform. Again, Telegram is where all of the setups are shared. It's free. It's in the description. Go and check it out because you're missing out. Now, in that respect, we do have, at this moment in time, an Ethereum trade that is active. And if we actually look at Pump, which is also another trade setup that we was monitoring in yesterday's video, we didn't actually get our entry, right? What I kind of expected was for Pump to retrace back down to offer us an opportunity to enter into a long. So this doesn't mean the trade is initially invalidated. The only way to invalidate the trade is if price takes out TP2, right? Which it hasn't actually done. We did see a continued rally and not get the pullback we expected, but nonetheless, the trade is still active. And as you can see, price is pulling back down towards our entry. So if we have had this extensive wave and we do get this resistance and pull back into our entry zone, this is where it could become live and we have our 2 TP set up if we're fortunate enough to get the setup, right? So that's the Pump trade. We are still waiting. Now, with Pump wrapped up, we're going to dive into another trade. This is a new potential opportunity. Remember in yesterday's video, I said to you, look, they're going to present themselves, right? The market is volatile, but there's always opportunities to trade. And that's what we're going to do here at Bitcoin on Point. We're going to focus on finding these opportunities and presenting them to you. Again, you can track it all in Telegram for free to keep up to date and actually execute them along with us. So we have ETH that's active, right? We have Pump that we're still waiting for, hasn't gone our way yet. And now there is SPX, which is presenting another opportunity on the 4-hour. So SPX had this major level of resistance that it kept hitting on its head on for quite some time, right? And it eventually got the breakout of this resistance on Friday. Now, when it broke out, it did see a nice rally, but it did run back into a previous level of support and meet that as resistance. So this is where our opportunity was presented. Because we tapped back into a previous level of resistance, we then have expected price to return potentially back down towards the previous level of resistance for support. And we do have this order block, which is actually where our entry is, roughly, I think it's about 31 cents. Very, very close to it now, in fact. And if it does tap into that, we are looking to take our next long position with a TP set up roughly at 42 cents. So, opportunities galore. We've got ETH that we're active in. Pump we're waiting for. An SPX that's also looking to present another opportunity after breaking out and now retesting for continuation. So there's opportunities all over the board, guys. And again, you can keep up to date with everything live inside my free Telegram. The links are in the description. Now, let's wrap up a summary for today's video. So the logarithmic fractal growth is presenting DCA zone opportunities, historical opportunities at local lows in the past based on this fractal. The daily is at a deciding moment. 72K needs to be broken, and 80K represents a market structure shift with weekly bullish order block support between 60 to 60K. On the 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, we are squeezing inside a neutral symmetrical triangle, waiting for a decisive decision of loss of support or a break of resistance to guide short-term direction. And then we also have SPX, our current new trade setup, waiting for an entry that could offer a long opportunity. I hope you've enjoyed the content, guys. Until next time, all of the best.